Hi students, how are you all of you? A very warm welcome to all my dear students who have already joined these classes, and today on the request of many students from all over India, special request, today hundreds of other students are live with me to understand what is live classes. In spite of that, most of the students have even checked my video lectures which are already uploaded as demo lectures, though it was my class actually, but still, because it is a new thing, hundreds of students, they are wishing to see me live, that how it actually works. So today is the live classes which is free for every student who is watching me live, including my students who are already in this class. Why students, this is a special session today? Because today I will be making you understand that how I have been teaching since 20 years in my offline classes, and why students, they have been coming from thousands of kilometers to Lucknow. Why? Because they actually wish to qualify this exam and even IES mains. Because my system of teaching is very exam eccentric, which I have already told you. And from time to time, I always try to churn up again and again, according to my system, something which is known as, suppose kariye ki I taught you 14th century, 15, 16, and so many things we have already done. And I myself don't know that when I will be getting you something which will be a special package for you, and that will actually help students to understand that what they are preparing, क्या आप सही रास्ते में प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं, क्या आप हमको फॉलो कर रहे हैं. My offline students, they can discuss with me, but you cannot discuss because you are not sitting in front of me. But I'm giving you the same pleasure of my offline classes which I have been, and then only you will be getting the best for your nourishment as well as for your own development as a English literature scholar. So clear students? So I am going to start with my students and with the students all over India who are watching my live. A very warm welcome today, all of you, and I hope that you will like this lecture very much. So today I am going to start, students, the 14th century movement in very short points, wherein my students who have already done this class will know that how I am going to help you without offline class. Offline class इसको हम ऐसे बना रहे हैं with the help of this projector. I am going to put off all the lights of this room, and it will be a total dark room. So now see that what next I am going to give you here. Just wait a moment. Saman, Katija, most of the students who are live, who are from all over India, who have not joined but they are watching me live here. So just give me a message on the message box so that I may be able to see you. Most of you, I may be able to see you that you are online. Fine. So see students, yesterday evening, I have made a chart like this, which is not with me in my hard copy, which I have made especially for the online class, so that you may be able to understand that actually what I have taught you, you have done it or not. For example, main historical events of the 14th century. Immediately, you should know the 100 Years' War with France, Black Death, Lollard Movement, and Peasants' Revolt. And Peasants' Revolt is of 1381. Again, 100 Years' War with France, which I have already explained you, the Black Death, Lollard Movement of Wycliffe, Peasants' Revolt in the age of Richard II, जिसने Peasants' Revolt को suppress किया था. I am sure you may be able to recollect all those points which I have already taught you. Clear? Then what are the features of the age of Chaucer? The rise of national consciousness, the corruption of the church, and the decline of feudal system, and ultimately the rise of the middle class. This is one pointer questions, one pointer points which will nourish your mind for anything, for any interviews, and for your self development and for your self confidence also. Who are the contemporaries of Chaucer? Langland, Sir John Mandeville, John Gower, and Wycliffe. What is Black Death? See, I have written one liner, just remember it. The Black Death ravaged England during 1348-49, and it was a plague epidemic. And why it is called, students, Black Death? Because death was caused by the black boils on the body. Clear? Then you have John Wycliffe. Who was he? He was a religious reformer, and he was a translator of the Bible, who is also known as the founder of English prose. Then we have William Langland. Who is a William Langland? William Langland was a poet, and he was a prophet too. We know him for his best work, The Vision of William, concerning Piers the Plowman. And this poem is a satire against the contemporary church. And it has been called the greatest book of social protest in the 14th century. And his poetry is alliterative. It is allegorical in nature. We have already discussed what is alliteration, what is allegory. 14th century, the 13th century was known for its allegory. Then we have the Canterbury Tales. And this Canterbury Tales, first the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, then Canterbury Tales, which is a company of some 30 persons, 29 according to the prologue, but 30 by actual count. While they were staying at a Tabard Inn in Southwark on the eve of a 3 to 4 day pilgrimage to the shrine of Thomas Becket, Canterbury, accept the offer of Henry Bailey. Who was Henry Bailey? He was a host. एक बार नेट में क्वेश्चन आया था कि who is the host? उसमें ऑप्शन था Henry Bailey, to show them the way. Clear? Then we come to the 15th century, which I have already taught you. The 15th century, if you remember, I have told you, it opened with the Battle of Agincourt. बहुत important battle है ये. और इस बैटल की वजह से क्या हुआ था? इट सॉ द फॉल ऑफ द कॉन्स्टेंटिनोपल. देखिए लिखा है मैंने, इट सॉ द फॉल ऑफ द कॉन्स्टेंटिनोपल इन 1453 and Columbus discovered America and Vasco da Gama discovered India in 1498. Then I had told you Wars of the Roses. What is War of the Roses? It is a 30 years struggle between the House of Lancaster and the House of York. और किस चीज के लिए था ये? For the succession to the throne broke out in 1459-55, which gave England the Tudor line of the dynasty. That is Tudor dynasty. Suppose if anybody asks what is Tudor dynasty, you will start from this. This was the reason why Tudor dynasty came. And students, these Tudor kings basically were despotic kings, and I have given you all the details of the Tudor dynasty, starting from Henry VII to Henry VIII, then Edward VI, then Mary I and Queen Elizabeth I, which we have already done so far. More of the students, please come to my chat box. Shreya, good afternoon. I hope that most of the students should come on the message box so that I may be able to see them. Then how many of you are watching me live, listening me live? Now, what are the general features of the 15th century, which is discussed, which is given here in brief? The 15th century, students, is described as a barren period of English literature, and except for a few followers of Chaucer, the 15th century does not have that significant figures like that of Chaucer, Gower or Langland. And सिर्फ प्रोज लिटरेचर की बात करें तो थोड़ा सा एडवांसमेंट हमको 15th सेंचुरी में मिला है. एंड हु आर दिस इंग्लिश चॉसेरियंस? इंग्लिश चॉसेरियंस में नाम आते हैं, बड़े नाम आते हैं, जॉन लिडगेट, थॉमस ऑक्लीव एंड जॉन स्केल्टन. समीक्षा, गुड आफ्टरनून. स्कॉटिश चॉसेरियन में आते हैं जेम्स वन ऑफ स्कॉटलैंड. आई हैड टोल्ड यू हु इज नोन फॉर द किंग्स स्क्वायर, रॉबर्ट हेनरिसन, द टेस्टामेंट ऑफ क्रिसीडा, विलियम डनबर एंड गेविन डगलस. गेविन डगलस का एक वर्क है द पैलेस ऑफ ऑनर, द पैलेस ऑफ ऑनर. Then we have Thomas Occleve. He was a great follower and he was very much influenced by Chaucer. The Regiment of Princes and La Mala Regale. These are two important works of Occleve. और यही वो इंसान था जिसके लिए क्रॉम्पटन एंड रिकेट ने, इतने बड़े क्रिटिक ने, राइटर ने लिखा है that there is no duller dog in literature than Occleve. Such a great satire. इतना बड़ी बात उसको कह दी क्रॉम्पटन एंड रिकेट ने. Then chronological wise we come to, कहाँ गया ये, जेम्स वन ऑफ स्कॉटलैंड. James I of Scotland, who is also known for his King's Square, he was imprisoned, and during his captivity he fell in love with Lady Jane Beaufort, and this poem presents his love genuinely and tenderly. Clear? And it is a very pleasing poem written in rhyme royal, which I had told you that this is rhyme royal because rhyme royal word was because it was used by a king. Otherwise, ABABBCC, this rhyming scheme was started by no other than Geoffrey Chaucer. But it is known as rhyme royal because James I of Scotland took this rhyme royal for his beloved's poem to be given to her, the King's Square. And it is also remarkable for its personal touches, and though it has nothing of Chaucer's power, and it is fairly imitative. Then we have William Dunbar. Dunbar is basically a poet who is best known for his Thistle and the Rose, which is what? Which is a love allegory. And his other work is also known as the Golden Targe, which is also a love allegory. And he has also been called the Chaucer of Scotland, but he is a lesser poet undoubtedly compared to Chaucer. Then William Caxton, a big name who brought the English printing into existence, and he was himself a translator who translated many books and who printed great books of Chaucer and so many other great poets and writers as well. Then we have a great name, Sir Thomas Malory, who was a translator as well as a romancer. He died in prison into which he was thrown for reasons more than one. And his best known work is Morte d'Arthur. Many times questions are asked from Morte d'Arthur. You should also read some of the details of Morte d'Arthur. Then we have pastoral letters, which have 1100 letters in its credit. And these documents, these letters are written by, and they are moving to and fro in the Paston family, which belongs to a place that is Norfolk. Then we have, now see, this is what I have given you in such a small period of time. I took only 5 minutes and I gave you such a range of short liners which you will remember and which you will know that how you have to produce your study material, your point wise, so that you may not forget anything. Now see, this is even more important, which I have especially made for these live classes. Otherwise these things are too much in detail, and in this way I have never written, so it is prepared especially for the live classes. See, the entire range of Old English poetry was preserved in only 4 manuscripts, and these 4 manuscripts attribute to the 11th century. और ये कौन से 4 वर्क्स हैं? देखिए, Cotton Vitellis, Junius Exeter book and Vercelli book. Then Anglo-Saxon poetry, as you know, was written in alliterative words. Alliteration, you know already. Then these are very, very important points, or you can say names, which has to be remembered by every student of English, whether you have to go for any XYZ exam, NET, PhD entrance, SET, PGT, KV, Navodaya, anything. Then Dream of the Rood is the oldest surviving poem, and this poem is in the form of Dream of Vision. आपने देखा होगा कि चौसर ने बहुत सारी poems Dream of Vision में लिखी है, and which was later used for a variety of purpose. Dream of the Rood. Then these 2 poems you will find in my study material also, The Wanderer and The Seafarer. ये एक दूसरे से काफी मिलते जुलते हैं. जो Wanderer है, it is a lament मतलब होता है दुख व्यक्त करना, of a solitary man who had once been happy in the service of a loved lord. And the Seafarer, which has the same melancholic tone, दोनों ही melancholic tone में है, but the same mingling of regret and self-pity, is the monologue. एक monologue means one-sided, of an old sailor who recalls the loneliness and hardships of a sea at sea. Why I have explained so much? Because suppose these things come and you are asked to tick what is the poem, what is the name of that poem in these 4 options, then simply the moment you get this detail, you will be able to reach to the Wanderer or the Seafarer. Then the poem Widsith. Widsith is a poem which consists of a prologue. प्रोलॉग मतलब होता है पोएम शुरू करने से पहले, एपिलॉग का मतलब होता है पोएम खत्म करने के बाद. तो पोएम has a prologue of 9 lines and a speech by Widsith also consisting of 125 lines, and then in the last epilogue of 9 lines. Then remember War of the Roses. War of the Roses, a very important term. Again, I have written here some of the details more here. The rival houses of Lancaster and York, and it was the longest civil strife that continued for 3 decades, 1455 to 1485, and this War of the Roses came to an end on the field of Bosworth in 1485, and this ushered in a new era of the Tudors, and with the Duke of Richmond ascending the English throne as Henry VII, which we studied when we were doing the Tudor dynasty. Then there are 3 periods of the poetic career of Chaucer, that's French, Italian and English. I have not written in proper chronology, but it actually is focusing on that era only. A very important poem, The Owl and the Nightingale, you will find in the net papers, is another poem which belongs to a secular literature that is sprang up after the Norman conquest of England. You remember, students, Norman conquest of England, I had told you 1066 with the coming of the Normandy, and which was inspired by the French works of chivalry. And it was cast in the form of a debate, a heated argument between the two birds. And the owl accuses the nightingale of singing amatory songs and of enticing men and women to sin. The owl's song is ever of sorrow and misfortune, and the poem has been interpreted as symbolizing the conflict between the ideals of the newer love poetry of the courtly origin and the religious didactic poetry so prominent in the medieval words. The poem was written by Nicholas D. Guildford about 1220, Owl and the Nightingale. Then John Gower, Speculum Meditantis in French. Remember it, don't forget, Speculum Meditantis in French, Vox Clementis in Latin and Confessio Amantis in English. इसको इंग्लिश में कहते हैं A Lover's Confession. Though it is written in different term, that is Latin, इसका मीनिंग होता है, इंग्लिश में इसका रूपांतर होता है A Lover's Confession. इसकी मीनिंग कन्फेसियो एमेंटिस की मीनिंग है अ लवर्स कन्फेशन. Students, many students are here live with me on the chat box, but I wish to know more and more students who are watching me. Just say a hello so that I may be able to see you here. Your presence is with me. So yes, next, The Parliament of Fowls. The Parliament of Fowls is again a poem by Chaucer. The Parliament of Fowls is clearly an occasional poem which takes its theme from the popular belief. ध्यान रखिएगा, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट यहाँ पे एक चीज बता रहे हैं हम आपको. ये देखिए, Saint Valentine's Day. It takes its theme from the popular belief that on Saint Valentine's Day, the birds chose their mate. So the poem beautifully presents a gathering of the birds. ये जो 2 लाइन लिखी है, इस 2 लाइन के ऊपर कई क्वेश्चंस आ चुके हैं. Many questions have been asked in the original net papers, and the option was the Parliament of Fowls, and most of the students used to put the wrong option. Chaucer used the convention of dream allegory in this poem. Nisarga, yeah, Neha, good evening all of you. Jatin, hello. Yeah. Next, Chaucer wrote the elegy, the Book of the Duchess. The Book of the Duchess, which records in an unusually graceful way the loss which John of Gaunt suffered in 1369 in the death of the first wife, Blanche. John of Gaunt was Chaucer's patron. So ये देखिए, जो मैंने टिक किया है, जो मैंने मार्क किया है, इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन पूछे गए हैं. मतलब क्वेश्चन को पूछा गया इस डिटेल में से और ऑप्शन दिया बुक ऑफ डचेस में. और ऐसे भी पूछा गया, what is the name of that poem which was written by Chaucer on the death of the first wife Blanche, regarding who is this John of Gaunt. matlab relating to the first wife and the death and the loss, the option was asked as the Book of the Duchess, and you had to put the right option. Now, see next, very important again. After the conversion of the English people, there was a craze of translating the Bible in medieval England. And the most important translations of the Bible in the 16th century are Tyndale's translations in 1525. Tyndale, देखिए, important. Coverdale's translation in 1535. And besides these, there are other translations. Names may be mentioned as the, मैंने आपको उस दिन बताया भी था, The Great Bible, Matthew's Bible, कवरडेल बाइबल, सब कुछ देखिए इसमें मैंने पॉइंट में कर दिया है. क्लियर? ये देखिए, जेनीवा बाइबल, बिशप्स बाइबल, और ये जितने भी ट्रांसलेशंस हैं, दे अकर्ड बिटवीन 1539 to 1568. See here, the Coventry cycle, the Chester cycle, the York cycle, the Wakefield cycle. There are few major cycles of miracle plays, which seem to have been a regular feature only in some of the larger towns. See, interlude. I have not left anything in one point. ये क्या होता है? It is a short play which with real characters usually of humble rank such as citizens and friars. But interlude has nothing to do with the main plot. It has nothing to do with the main plot. Chandrasekhar, yeah, Chandrasekhar, very warm welcome to you also. You are from Bihar, and I hope that you will enjoy this lecture. So there is an absence of allegorical figures in this kind of play. Much broad farcical humor prevails, and this play is staged between the two serious tragic plays. और मैंने आपको उस दिन बताया भी था कि जब कोई भी सीरियस प्ले हो रहा होता है, बीच में इंटरल्यूड इसलिए डालते हैं जस्ट फॉर सम कॉमिक रिलीफ. और याद करिए, जॉन हेवुड, who is the writer of 4 P's, the Palmer, the Pardler, the Patrickary, and the Palmer. The 4 P's थे. And what is the story behind these 4 P's by John Haywood? That who would tell the biggest lie? सबसे बड़ा झूठ कौन बोलेगा? तो अपने आप में ये कॉमिक हो गया. Then next is Tortle's Miscellany. What is Tortle's Miscellany? Tortle, again I will make you remember that Tortle was a printer oblique publisher. Miscellany मतलब होता है miscellaneous poems. It was a collection of songs and sonnets of the Elizabethan period by Thomas Wyatt and Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey. Means Wyatt and Surrey, who were the main contributors to this collection, and the title of these first edition was Songs and Sonnets. ये क्वेश्चन तक आ चुका है. And see, I have written here the title Tortle's Miscellany came from the name of the publisher, and the book opened the floodgate of sonneting in England, which was published in 1557. The date is very important. So then see, we have already discussed Apology for Poetry, Philip Sidney's Apology for Poetry. It was actually a epitome of literary criticism. Literary criticism जब आप लोग पढ़ेंगे तो वहां पे फिलिप सिडनी को एन अपॉलजी फॉर पोइट्री को डिटेल में पढ़ना पड़ता है. एंड एज लिटरेरी क्रिटिक, Sidney, who is one of the most important Renaissance poet, he has celebrated the greatness of poetry. And the details were, students, the book was published in 1585 as a rejoinder to Stephen Gosson's School for Abuse, in which the poetry is denounced as the mother of lies and poets as a maker, a creator, and a prophet. And he also proves the superiority of poetry over the branches of other branches of learning. So it is a great work, and it is an epitome of literary criticism. Then we have The Rosalind. Who has written the Rosalind? Thomas Lodge. Thomas Lodge. Chandrasekhar, I have already received your message. So good that you are here online now. I hope that many more students are online this time, but they have not mentioned their hello, good evening, good afternoon, anything. So it would be good if you just give a hello to me. Rosalind was a prose romance. Thomas Lodge was an important writer of prose fiction of the Elizabethan age. He wrote Rosalind, in which the tradition of the medieval pastoral romances was followed, and this belonged to the romantic and pastoral tales of the Elizabethan period and comparable with Lely's. ये देखिए, important point. It is comparable with Lely's Ephesus and Sidney's Arcadia. Every single line, every single construction of whatever I am teaching you, writing you, has some meaning, every meaning for your net examination. Clear? कि अगर आपसे पूछ लिया जाए कि रोजालिंड जो लॉज की लिखी हुई है, कौन से वर्क्स हैं जिससे इसको कंपेयर किया जा सकता है, तो इट इज लिलीज इफ्यूज एंड सिडनीज आर्केडिया. Clear, students? So this is what I have already taught you, and this was a sum up of the 14th 15th century in short, and I hope that you would have liked this summary a lot and a revision, so that you may be able to assess yourself कि सर ने इतनी मेहनत किया और हमें ये सारी चीजें हमारे टिप्स पे पॉइंटर्स की तरह है या नहीं है. Now I'm introducing you a very new thing which will help you in your this thing in the unit of criticism. So I am just making a base of this today with introduction of many important people which you might have read or heard but not knowing in detail as far as this examination is concerned, and being a literature student. You must have heard the name of Achilles. You can note it down in your copy, in your paper. Achilles, who was born in 525, और BC आपको पता है डिक्रीज होता है 456 BC. He was a Greek tragedian and he played an important part in the history making. इतिहास बनाया था Achilles ने, making wars between Greece and Persia. इसने इतिहास बना दिया था. And his characters are heroic because he was himself the product of the heroic age, and the struggle and the crisis of this age are the raw material of his drama. Means कि उसके ड्रामा में जो भी रॉ मटेरियल है वो बेसिकली क्या है, दैट इज द स्ट्रगल एंड द क्राइसिस ऑफ हिज ओन एज. उसके जो इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क्स हैं वो देख लीजिए. द पर्शियंस विच इज अ हिस्टोरिकल ड्रामा. ऑरेस्टिया जो इसका ड्रामा है, दैट इज बेसिकली अ ट्रायलॉजी मतलब होता है 1 2 3, इसके 3 पार्ट्स हैं. यहां ध्यान से देखिएगा, प्रोमीथियस बाउंड, इसमें कंफ्यूजन स्टूडेंट्स बहुत करते हैं और शैली और पता नहीं क्या क्या नाम पे टिक कर देते हैं. प्रोमीथियस बाउंड और ऑरेस्टिया जो है ये, इट इज हिज मास्टरपीस. एंड दिस ट्रायलॉजी जो मैंने बताया कंसिस्ट ऑफ 3 प्लेज. कौन से प्लेज हैं देखिए, एगमेनमोन, द क्योफोरी एंड द इनियराइज. So you can write it down, the Persians, Orestia, Prometheus Bound, and this is the masterpiece जो कि ट्रायलॉजी है 3. पहला एगमेनॉन, कोएफोरी and the Eumenides. So this is the trilogy. Now I have also given you the characteristics of Achilles drama, कि जो ड्रामा लिखता है उसमें कैसे कैरेक्टर्स होते हैं. कि कभी भी आपको एशिलीज के बारे में लिखना हो, बोलना हो, पढ़ना हो, सो यू शुड बी नोइंग इन 2-3 लाइंस कि उसके जो कैरेक्टर्स होते हैं दे आर ऑल गॉड लाइक कैरेक्टर्स, वेरी ग्रैंड सब्जेक्ट्स, जैसे मिल्टन एक जमाने में करता था. ग्रैंड स्टाइल, बिग स्टाइल, अफेयर्स ऑफ गॉड्स. मिल्टन का भी आपको याद होगा, ही इज नोन फॉर हिज लॉफ्टी वर्ड्स, ही इज नोन फॉर हिज लॉफ्टी स्टाइल. व्हाई मिल्टन इज नोन फॉर दीज थिंग्स? बिकॉज मिल्टन वॉज a person who believed in only these ancient gurus. उन्होंने इन्हीं को पढ़ा था. यही मदर हैं, यही फादर हैं जिन्होंने मिल्टन को बनाया. So you will also find the conflict between man and man, conflict between man and man and God. Then heroic treatment of the subject. इनके जो plays होते हैं उसमें you will always find the heroic treatment. Then Aeschylus and other Greek tragedies gave shape and form to the Greek tragedy. ये तो originators हैं. Aristotle, who has laid down the rules of tragedy, naturally modeled them on the tragedies of Aeschylus, Sophocles and Euripides. देखिए कितनी important point हमने यहाँ लिखा है कि जिसने rules of tragedy को ले किया है, he has naturally modeled them on the tragedies of. किसकी tragedies में Aristotle ने किया है? पहला एशलीज के, दूसरा सोफोक्लीज की और तीसरा यूरिपिडीज की. So while taking help from these great people, Aristotle has given the shape to his own tragedy. Clear, students? Is it clear to all of you? Are you getting everything clearly? Just message me, students. Just be a little bit interactive. Rabindra, good afternoon. Shivalila, good afternoon. Many more students, please come on my chat box. It is a very important class, and the importance of this class lies, first of all, Shreya, okay, Shreya, you, everybody, still I am getting few students here, many more are live. I will be able to communicate you much better, students. Just give me a hello. So in continuation, next is Aesop. You must have heard the names. He belongs to the 6th century BC. Very short, very crisp, and to the point I have prepared for you students in this slides. He was a great composer of animal fables, and very little is known about his life. And his masterpiece is Aesop Fables, जिसका कि आपने नाम सुना होगा. इसकी characteristics देखिए. Characteristics. Suppose if you have to write something, speak something, this you will be able to remember, and immediately you can answer. That the characteristics of his works are often animals. और वो animals जिनको वो क्या कर देता है? Speech like human beings. He endows the quality of his speech like human beings. और अगर human beings की quality डाल दिया तो human beings में vices and virtues सभी होते हैं, तो vices और virtues दोनों उनको उसके ऊपर निछावर कर दिया. They are symbolic and represent human types. जब animals हैं और हमने उनको human beings की तरह बना दिया, vices and virtues दिखा दिया, तो automatically क्या हो गया students? Symbolic हुआ ना? So it is all symbolic. Samiksha, fine, you are getting everything clear. Thank you. The language is simple, direct and free of rhetoric. देखिए, I will ask you one question here, students. The language of whatever he has written is very simple, is very direct and free of rhetoric. Free of rhetoric का मतलब समझते हैं? Free of rhetoric का मतलब होता है rhetoric and prosody जो आप पढ़ते भी हैं, पता नहीं आप लोगों ने पढ़ा है कि नहीं. Rhetoric का मतलब होता है कि जैसे जब लोग तैयार होते हैं तो मेकअप करते हैं, ज्वेलरी पहनते हैं, आर्टिस्टिक चीजें पहनते हैं टू लुक मोर बेटर एंड बेटर एंड बेटर. तो जब हम लैंग्वेज में रेटोरिक का इस्तेमाल करते हैं, जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं अलंकार, वो लैंग्वेज को गार्लैंड करता है. तो इनके लैंग्वेज में, इनके उसमें लैंग्वेज जो होती है सिंपल होती है, डायरेक्ट होती है और रेटोरिक बिल्कुल नहीं होता. कोई साज सज्जा, कोई गॉडी सेंटेंस, कोई एरिस्टोक्रेटिक बॉम्बास्टिक लैंग्वेजेस, इस प्रकार की कोई भी चीज आपको नहीं मिलेगी. एसोप की स्टोरी है द फ्रॉग्स हु चोज अ किंग. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. द फ्रॉग्स हु चोज अ किंग इज अ पॉलिटिकल सटायर. राजनैतिक व्यंग्य है ये. आपके पास चूंकि पेपर्स नहीं होंगे यूजीसी नेट के पुराने, बहुत पुराने मिलते भी नहीं हैं, but suppose if you get it, you will find this question also in the exam, that who has written and what it is. You can make anything out of it. Now, Aesop fables are read with pleasure by children. आपने देखा होगा कि ये बुक स्टॉल्स में, यूनिवर्सल्स में, बड़े बुक शॉप्स में ये आपको मिलती है, बहुत तरीके की मिलती है, हार्ड बाउंड कवर्स में सुंदर सुंदर कार्टून्स के साथ मिलती है, बिकॉज दिस बुक इज रेड बाय प्लेजर बाय चिल्ड्रन एंड इवन अडल्ट्स दे लाइक ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड. एंड हिज फेबल्स हैव इंस्पायर्ड. फेबल्स का मतलब समझते हैं बच्चों? फेबल्स देखिए लिखा है फेबल्स. फेबल्स हमेशा वो स्टोरी होगी जिसमें जानवरों का रोल होता है, जानवर जिसमें आ जाते हैं, दैट बिकम्स अ फेबल. His fables have inspired the works of La Fontaine and others in the modern period. Clear? So now, next is Ariosto. Ariosto Aristo. देखिए Aristo, he was an Italian poet. He was an Italian poet and dramatist. He studied law at his father's insistence. After the age of 20, he followed his own interests and studied classical literature. He himself designed theaters and scenery and wrote a number of plays. In only 2 lines, whatever is needed, I have given you. That वो इटालियन पोएट था, ड्रामेटिस्ट था. लॉ क्यों पढ़ा? क्योंकि उसके फादर ने उसको इंसिस्ट किया था, और 20 साल की उम्र में उसने अपने इंटरेस्ट को फॉलो किया और क्लासिकल लिटरेचर पढ़ने लगा रादर देन स्टडीइंग लॉ. अपने ही लिए उसने थिएटर डिजाइन किया, सीनरी डिजाइन किया और बहुत सारे प्लेस लिखे. देखिए अब याद करिए, जब मैं चौसर पढ़ा रहा था आपको, तो आई हैड गिवन यू ऑल द डिटेल्स ऑफ ऑरलैंडो फ्यूरियोसो, written by Ariosto, and which is his masterpiece and which has influenced many Renaissance poets and poems and which is a romantic epic. अब देखिए वहां से वहां पे आपको क्लैरिटी आ गई कि अरिस्टो ने लिखा है ऑरलैंडो फ्यूरियोसो, जो उसकी मास्टरपीस है, एंड ही इज आल्सो नोन फॉर राइटिंग द सपोजेस व्हिच इज ट्रांसलेटेड बाय जॉर्ज गैस्गियन इन इंग्लिश. देखिए ये चीज इंपॉर्टेंट है, ये आपको कहीं ऐसे नहीं मिलेगी. ये देखिए, why I have written, I have added it because it is important for your examination. It is important for your examination. That is, it is translated by George Gasgion. And what are the characteristics? Medieval element in his works you will find. Medieval elements. And medieval elements is chivalric wars, knightly adventures and love. Orlando Furioso, यहां पे ये ध्यान दीजिएगा, एन यहां मिसिंग हो गया है. और लैंडो फ्यूरियोसो जो है, इसको नोट कर लीजिएगा, इट इज एपिक ऑफ 48 कैंटोज, करीब 1200 पेजेस की है. एंड ये देखिए, ये भी इंपॉर्टेंट है, ओट्टावा रिमा. ओट्टावा रिमा, कोई पूछ ले आपसे कि ऑरलैंडो फ्यूरियोसो किस पैटर्न में लिखी गई है, तो ओट्टावा रिमा. एंड हिज वर्क्स आर full of supernatural and allegorical elements. Full of, yes. Clear? Impact. इसका impact क्या हुआ? Aristo was a big name and he exercised a profound influence on the French and the English Renaissance poets. like, जब आप स्पेंसर को पढ़ेंगे, और मैं आपको यहां बता दूं कि स्पेंसर को पोएट्स पोएट क्यों कहा जाता है. स्पेंसर इज कॉल्ड अ पोएट्स पोएट. व्हाई नॉट चौसर इज अ पोएट्स पोएट, जबकि चौसर इज अ फादर ऑफ इंग्लिश पोइट्री. एंड स्पेंसर, दो मच ग्रेट देन चौसर, ही इज द सेकंड फादर ऑफ इंग्लिश पोइट्री. व्हाई? हैव यू ever understood this point, that why Chaucer is the father of English poetry and the second father of English poetry is considered to be Spencer, जबकि स्पेंसर को कहा गया है ही इज अ पोएट्स पोएट, पोएटों का पोएट. तो पोएटों का पोएट और सेकंड फादर है नहीं कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी. बट यस, स्पेंसर कैन नॉट बी अ फादर ऑफ इंग्लिश पोइट्री. इसमें फर्क समझ लीजिए, मैं थोड़ा सा इस ट्रैक से अलग हट गया हूं, बट वट एवर एंड वेर एवर आई फील लाइक गिविंग यू सम गुड इनपुट्स, आई नेवर मेक माई सेल्फ बैक. सो इसमें ध्यान दीजिएगा कि फादर ऑफ इंग्लिश पोइट्री वही हो सकता है जिसके पास एक पैनोरामिक व्यू हो, who is actually representing the exact situation of the age, and he was a typical mirror of the age of the 14th century. चाहे वो रिलीजियस हो, रिलीजियस, इकोनॉमिकल, सोशल, पॉलिटिकल, केवल चार ही चीज होती हैं दुनिया में, सोशल, रिलीजियस, पॉलिटिकल, इकोनॉमिकल. ये चारों ही चीजें उसकी सारी पोएम्स में चिन्हित हैं. सो जब हम उसकी पोएम्स को पढ़ते हैं, वी फाइंड दैट it is presenting the most of the details. It is true picture of the 14th century. And in contradiction, in Spenser, you will not find the century. You will only find beautiful poems, sensuous poems, panoramic poems, pictorial poems, love poems, and his English is marvelous, par excellence. He is such a contributor, he is such a writer that even English language has written somewhere. एक critic है जिसका नाम है रेने वेलिक. रेने वेलिक ने कहीं पे कोट किया है कि इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज ने इसको प्रणाम किया है. द इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज owes to Spenser, not Spenser to English language, because he utilizes English language in a way as if he is playing with a toy. So such is the seriousness, such is the majesty, such is the grandeur of Spenser's poetry. And what is the reason behind it? Coming back to the point, the reason behind it is that Spenser, Chaucer, Milton, everybody, whoever have reached to the top of their level, they have taken all the influence from these great men. Clear? तो स्पेंसर ने भी एरिस्टो, ऑरलैंडो फियोरेसो, एरिस्टोफेन्स एंड एरिस्टोटल, लॉन्जाइनस, सबको पढ़ा है, एंड देन ओनली ही कुड बिकम स्पेंसर. नेक्स्ट. Next is Aristophanes. Again a big name, Greek comic poet. In his comedies, he attacked the democratic institutions of the Athenian people, Athens के, ridiculed their political leaders, and advocated the aristocratic government and the traditional morality. उसका वर्क्स देखिए, Arcanians and the Frogs and the Birds. ये दो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, द फ्रॉग्स एंड द बर्ड्स. बल्कि जो बर्ड्स है वो उसका मास्टरपीस कहलाता है, जो कि इट इज अ प्योर फैंटेसी. एंड दिस वर्क, द फ्रॉग्स, सैटिराइजेस यूरिपिडीज फॉर लोअरिंग द मॉरल टोन ऑफ हिज ट्रेजेडीज. कि अगर कल को आपसे ये पूछा जाए कि फॉर विच या व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ दैट वर्क बाय एरिस्टोफेन्स वेयर which is the work by Aristophanes where he has satirized Euripides for lowering the moral tone of his tragedies, then it is the Frogs. And he was a teacher as well as a comic poet. He was a great satirist, highly imaginative, and he aimed at the improvement of the Athenian society and the government policies. What was the impact of his works? That because he was a comic writer, his modern comedy differs from Aristophanic comedy, but he left, उसने अपना इतना जबरदस्त indelible impact छोड़ गया on Greek theatre and drama. कुछ लगभग 40 plays were attributed to him, लेकिन कुल 11 सर्वाइव करती हैं. और देखिए मैंने यहां लिखा है, The Birds is considered as his acknowledged masterpiece. Clear? Now, coming to one of the most acknowledged, one of the most great man, that is no other than Aristotle. See what I have written in short. You may read hundreds of pages of Aristotle in different books in Wikipedia and so many other things. But suppose if you just follow these 5, 6, 7 lines, your total work is done. So this is called master studies. This is called saving your time, getting the right approach, the technical assistance, and cracking any examination. But yes, your memory should be sharp and you should be, you can say, study alcoholic till the time you don't qualify in it. The moment you qualify in it, you can become lethargic. Greek philosopher and scientist. He was a great Greek philosopher, he was a great scientist, and he was the son of a doctor. He went to Athens and joined, see, Plato's academy. 17 साल की एज में, and he remained there till Plato died 20 years later. In 342 BC, he was invited to Pella by Philip of Macedon to work as a tutor of his son Alexander. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट लाइन है ये. उसको बुलाया गया कि वो एक ट्यूटर बन जाए, शिक्षक बन जाए हमारे बच्चे का, और उसका बच्चे का नाम था अलेक्जेंडर. और अलेक्जेंडर उस समय कुल 13 साल का था. He was a boy of only 13 years. And when Alexander became the king in 336 BC, Aristotle settled in Athens, where he taught, wrote, conducted research till Alexander died in 323 BC. उसके बाद उसने एथेंस छोड़ दिया. जब मैकेडोनियन नहीं, एंटी मैकेडोनियन फीलिंग बढ़ने लगी तो रास्ता कोई था नहीं सिवाय भागने के. So much of his writings, because he had to flee away, has been lost, and the surviving works which we have are in the form of notes. And these works, students, are, देखिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, ऑर्गेनॉन, और इसको इंस्ट्रूमेंट कहते हैं, which consist of studies in logic. मैंने यहां पे क्यों लिखा है consist of studies in logic? कोई रीजन होगा इसका लिखने का बच्चों? कोई तो रीजन होगा. कोई तो रीजन होगा. हमारे यहां पे इसका लिखने का क्या रीजन था? सपोज करिए मैं इसको नहीं लिखता, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं इसको नहीं लिखता, आपको सिर्फ पता है ऑर्गेनॉन और इंस्ट्रूमेंट. अब आपके पास क्वेश्चन आ जाता है, व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ दैट वर्क बाय अरिस्टोटल which has the study in logic, जो लॉजिक से डील करता है. आप तुरंत जीरो हो जाएंगे. और ये चूंकि पूछा जाता है, पूछा गया है, तो ही मैंने लिखा है. It consists of studies in logic. Which is the work which consists of studies in logic by Aristotle? आप immediately click कर देंगे organon और instrument. Then he has written a work जो हम physics पढ़ते हैं, केवल physics. Then metaphysics, देखिए again I have written. What is the name of that work which inquires into the nature of reality? Metaphysics. Biology, parts of animals, generation of animals, history of animals. Then politics, then ethics, and the most important is poetics. See, the greatest piece of literary criticism. When you will read literary criticism, you have to go in detail of poetics. मैं आपसे यहां ये कहना चाहूंगा कि कभी आपको मौका मिले तो पोएटिक्स अभी से पढ़ लीजिएगा. कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स. More scientific, more systematic than Plato, covers almost all fields of human knowledge. Scientific and philosophical thought of the West proceed from. इस लाइन का मीनिंग समझ रहे हैं आप बच्चों? इस लाइन का मीनिंग आप समझ पा रहे हैं? बहुत गहरी बात इसमें लिखी है. साइंटिफिक एंड फिलोसॉफिकल थॉट ऑफ द वेस्ट. वेस्ट का मतलब होता है वेस्टर्न कंट्री, दैट इज अमेरिका. कहते हैं ना वेस्टर्न से हमारे पास सारी चीजें आ रही हैं, हमारा कल्चर, हमारी चीजें बदलती जा रही हैं बिकॉज वी आर फॉलोइंग द वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज. अब देखिए कि एरिस्टोटल किस जमाने का था और आज कौन सा जमाना चल रहा है. बट द वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज, even today, दे प्रोसीड, वो शुरुआती करते हैं एरिस्टोटोलियन स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट से। मीन्स कि दे हैव सो मच लव एंड रिगार्ड फॉर एरिस्टोटल कि वो कोई भी काम शुरू करते हैं तो कुछ भी है, चाहे वो साइंटिफिक है, चाहे फिलोसफिकल है, थॉट, ये जितनी भी चीजें हैं वेस्ट की, ये शुरू ही होती हैं एरिस्टोटोलियन स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट से। कितनी बड़ी बात है। एंड रेनेसां जो यूरोप में आया था, इट डिपेंडेड मच ऑन एरिस्टोटोलियन थिंकिंग डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली। ये दोनों ही पॉइंट्स आर ग्रेट पॉइंट्स for students to understand. And suppose if you have to speak anywhere in the entire world about Aristotle, सिर्फ इन दो पॉइंट्स को अगर आप बोल देंगे तो you will get 10 out of 10. Nothing to speak more. That sir, Aristotle was a person who even today, after thousands of years, is a man from where we even start today. आज भी हम अरिस्टोटल के ही कंसेप्ट से शुरू करते हैं और वहीं खत्म करते हैं। एंड जस्ट यही हाल वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज का है। और जो हमारा यूरोप है, दैट even today they depend on the thinking of Aristotle directly or indirectly. And no one in Europe has influenced the Western thought and philosophy as did Aristotle. दांते ने बहुत अच्छा कहा है, he became the master of those who know. एरिस्टोटल को जानने के लिए हमें जानकार होना पड़ेगा। हम टॉम डिक एंड हैरी अगर हैं तो यू कैनॉट अंडरस्टैंड एरिस्टोटल। इसीलिए दांते जैसे ने कहा है, he became the master of only those who know. जो जानते हैं उन्हीं का मास्टर हो सकते हो आप। बहुत छोटी सी बात है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आप सैकड़ों बच्चे हमसे इस समय पढ़ रहे हैं, एंड फॉर एग्जाम्पल there are few students who know nothing of English literature, but they have done their MA English and they are watching my lecture. Maybe they don't understand anything. So you have to know something to understand me. Got my point? So ये मैं समझाना चाहता हूं कि दांते ने उसको कहा, he became the master of those who know, and he was certainly the most powerful and influential of all the ancient thinkers till the ancient time. उस जमाने में जितने भी थिंकर्स थे एंशिएंट, उनमें से सबका जो सबसे हेवी वेट था, दैट वाज एरिस्टोटल एंड नोबडी एल्स। Next, Augustine, Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine, he was a Christian theologian and a philosopher. He was born in Africa. He was son of a pagan father and devout Christian mother. And very little is known about his formal education, but he had a natural bent for literature. 20 साल की उम्र में he returned home as a teacher of rhetoric. He taught for some years at these colleges, and he came under the influence of Saint Ambrose. Both his mother Monica and Augustine are now known as saints in Christianity. इसमें कोई बहुत खास बात नहीं है। Something is to be known for Saint Augustine. Two things are important. उसका जो एक स्पिरिचुअल ऑटोबायोग्राफी है इनकी, उसका नाम है कॉन्फेशंस, और दूसरा है सिटी ऑफ गॉड, दैट इज हिज लर्नेड फिलॉसफी ऑफ हिस्ट्री। कन्फेशंस एंड सिटी ऑफ गॉड। And the characteristics is that बहुत ज्यादा उसने लिखा है। He is a voluminous writer. He left marked tradition of Christianity, the last of the great Roman writers and the first of the great medievals. Confessions जो ये मैंने बताया आपको, it is a great book, simple, direct and sincere. And Saint Augustine was a great preacher, a man of attractive personality, to whose intellectual power later Christianity is indebted forever. उसके intellectual power से Christianity आज भी बहुत ज्यादा indebted है। So this was a brainstorming session for the new students and for the old students. The old students got a summary, a detailed, that बीच में एक हफ्ते 10-10 दिन के क्लासेस के बीच में I will be brainstorming you with whatever I have taught, so that you can assess yourself. क्योंकि लाइव में बहुत ज्यादा वैसे नहीं हो सकता जैसे ऑफलाइन में होता है, but you are getting 95% of my offline classes. 95%, believe me. So nothing to worry. So now I have prepared for you only 11 questions, students. Only 11 questions. Just see these questions and solve in your diary immediately. Fast. Pen and paper ready. Just see the question and mark it immediately on your pen and paper and give me the answer within 4 to 5 minutes maximum. Lee Roman de la Rose. It is a poem written by four options: Guillaume de Loris, Jean de Meung, Geoffrey Chaucer, Sir Thomas Malory, and John Wycliffe. Just write an option immediately. Once again, I would request my students to message me on the message box that they are here, they are listening me. Once again, I would request them to just put their attendance only, that yes sir, I am here, I am watching your classes. Second question, Chaucer's poem The House of Fame is written in iambic pentameter, octosyllabic couplet, free verse or blank verse. The third question, John Gower's second poem, Vox Clementis, was composed in Middle English, Latin language, French language, Scottish language. Next question, the 100 Years' War was originated in the conquest of 1066, the conquest of 1068, the conquest of 1067, and the conquest of 1069. Students, you put the option in the last. I will tell you all the answers. So, and then you can yourself check that whatever you have written is correct or wrong. Who are called Lollards? John Tyler and his followers, John Wycliffe and his followers, John Strock and his followers, John Ball and his followers. In his The Wife of Bath's Tale, Chaucer retold the story of Morte Arthur, the Green Knight, the marriage of Sir Gawain, and the Lady of Shalott. In Chaucer's The Prologue to the Canterbury Tales, who amongst the following characters told the first tale on their way to Canterbury? पहली टेल किसने बताया था? शिपमैन, कुक, नाइट एंड रीव. देखिए ये क्वेश्चंस आपको ये बता देंगे कि हमें प्रिपरेशन कैसे करनी है. John Lydgate wrote a long allegorical love poem modeled upon Chaucer's House of Fame. चौसर की जो हाउस ऑफ फेम पोएम थी उसके ऊपर मॉडल करके जॉन लिडगेट ने एक बहुत लंबी एलेगोरिकल पोएम लिखा था. उस पोएम का क्या नाम है? फॉल ऑफ प्रिंसेस, द कोर्ट ऑफ सेपियंस, द टेम्पल ऑफ ग्लास और लंडन लिकपेनी. William Dunbar wrote a political allegory of 27 stanzas in Rhyme Royal, and which celebrates the marriage of King James I, the marriage of King James II, the marriage of King James III, and the birthday of King James IV. क्वेश्चन नंबर 9 में दो बार प्रिंटिंग मिस्टेक हो गई है बी और सी में. आप सी ऑप्शन को हटा सकते हैं. ए, बी एंड डी में आप ऑप्शन ले लीजिएगा. Who was imprisoned for participation in the War of the Roses? Sir David Lindsley, Sir John Mandeville, William Caxton, and Sir Thomas Malory. And the last question is, who wrote the first eclogue in the English language? Robert Fabin, Sir John Bouchier, Stephen Hawes, and Alexander Barclay. Now, Now I am coming to question number 1. Check your answers. Check your answers. Question number 1. I have to A, B, C. Check it because I have to move it again. Check it. C, C, B, 7C, DC, and 9B. And last is D and D. So this became a theater for me also and for you also, students. And this was the first time that I was teaching like this in a black room and with this technology. I hope you would have liked, though I was not visible that much, but the content was more important than my visibility. I hope you will follow this thing. So continuing for the last lecture, क्योंकि हमें कुछ पोर्शन वहां से कंप्लीट करना है. I will, टाइम हो चुका है. The other classes are lined up. I will only take 5 minutes more, wherein I will just complete that portion which I had to complete yesterday in chronological order, and that is जो हम लोग नॉन फिक्शन में कर रहे थे, that is the magazine of the 19th century. The magazine of the 19th century. Now students, do one thing. On your message box, just let me know that out of these 11 questions, how many got correct. जैसे किसी का 5 है तो 5 लिख दे, 11 है तो 11 out of 11 लिख दे, 7, 8, 9, 2, 5, whatever it is. But it should be an honest answer. Just give me this message. Then only, my expectations would be more, concentrating for you people only. अगर आप जवाब नहीं देंगे ना या फॉलो नहीं करेंगे तो हमारा भी वो बुझ जाएगा. So yes, the magazine of the 19th century क्या है कि इस एज में, in this age of 19th century, जो literary criticism था, that basically established by the appearance of very big magazines, big names, and that comes under the section of non-fiction. And what are the names of that magazines? The Edinburgh Review, the Edinburgh Review 1802, the Quarterly Review 1808, Blackwood's Magazine 1817, the Westminster Review 1824, the Spectator 1828, and the Fraser's Magazine 1830. ये जो magazines थी were edited by people like Francis Jeffrey, John Gibson, John Wilson, and these people, they exercised a great impact and a great influence on the coming subsequent literatures. Now we have come to the Edinburgh Review. The Edinburgh Review was a magazine which was founded in 1802 by Francis Jeffrey and Sidney Smith. Jeffrey जो था, he was the presiding genius of the review, which made itself notable by its condemnation of the lake poets. जो मैंने आपको कल बताया था lake poets के बारे में, Coleridge, Wordsworth and Sade. So Jeffrey was the presiding genius of this review, which made itself notable, अपने को notable कराया by the condemnation of the lake poets, and they were attacked because they had given up their earlier liberal principles and had gone over to the conservative camp. And who was Jeffrey? He was basically a traditionalist, and he hated all the innovations. And among the notable contributors to the Edinburgh Review, which was a branded name, big name, who were the contributors? Big names like Scott, Hazlitt, Macaulay, Carlyle, Thomas Arnold, and Gladstone. So this is a brief summary of the Edinburgh Review, which you can yourself read through my study materials and even from other sources. Now comes the Quarterly Review. What is Quarterly Review? Which was in London, which was started in 1809. Quarterly Review, 1809. Fabina, Neha, 5 answers correct. Shreya Tripathi, 6. Fabina, 4. 8 answers. Saman, 8. What about so many students who have not answered? There are dozens of students who have still not answered. So please answer here. So this Quarterly Review was started in 1809 by John Murray. ये किसने शुरू किया था? John Murray ने. And the first editor, Gifford, was succeeded by Lockhart. The first editor was Gifford. He was succeeded by Lockhart. And then I'll tell you about, this is about the Quarterly Review. Then comes the Blackwoods, B magazine, BM, short mein, Blackwoods magazine. This Blackwoods magazine was founded in 1817 by the publisher का नाम भी Blackwood से था, William Blackwood. And he was actually a rival of the Edinburgh magazine, Edinburgh Review. It was a monthly and you can say lighter than Edinburgh. And इसके जो contributors थे वो बहुत talented writers थे, जैसे John Wilson, John Gibson and James Hogg. James Hogg ने लिखा था एक work जिसका नाम था some Shepherd करके, the Ettrick Shepherd, something like that. And the magazine distinguished itself by its scandalous abuse. और scandalous abuse को हम कहते हैं Cockney School of Lehant, Lamb and Hazlitt. ये क्वेश्चन आ चुका है कि who are the people who are known in the Cockney School? That is Lehant, Lamb, Hazlitt and Keats. 4 लोग थे, Lehant, Lamb, Hazlitt and Keats, because they were associated with the radical Hunt. And last but not least is the London magazine. The London magazine. And the London magazine was started in 1820 in opposition to the Blackwoods magazine, with Charles Lamb, with Thomas De Quincey, Hazlitt and some other people. It lasted for 9 years. Started in 1820 and ended in 1829. And De Quincey का जो हमने पढ़ा था Confessions of an English Opium Eater, and Charles Lamb का Essay of Elia, Charles Lamb की Essay of Elia and Confessions of English Opium Eater by De Quincey, they appeared in the London magazine. Why I gave you the details of these 4 magazines, you will find students and number of questions coming from these magazines as well. So once again, I hope that the old students and the new students would have loved this lecture, and I'll keep on updating you like this from time to time, apart from my regular lectures which you are getting daily, क्योंकि ये ब्रेन स्टॉर्मिंग भी आपके लिए मोटिवेशन के लिए भी जरूरी है, और आपको जो क्वेश्चंस में आंसर जो आपको मिल रहे हैं 4, 5, 6, 8, उससे आप थोड़ा सा समझ सकते हैं, बहुत ज्यादा तो नहीं, लेकिन आप ये समझ सकते हैं कि हाँ हमें क्या करना है और आगे कैसी पढ़ाई करनी है. Febina, so I'm not getting the proper messages from every student that how they have solved and how much marks or how much answers they got correct. Anyways, I will still wait for them through WhatsApp messages. So once again, a very good evening. Meet you tomorrow for the next session. Thank you.